So let me tell you what I saw when I went to observe Ashley. Again, this is end of fourth grade. Ashley carries unsharpened pencils with her as kind of a soothing thing, and also like a deck of cards. And she literally was walking down the hallway just like this all the time. She looked just very frightened, very anxious. She would rarely speak, and when she spoke, it was pretty much only to her paraprofessional, who was Velcroed at the hip to her all day long, every minute of the day. And if her paraprofessional stepped away from her to just even move a seat over, Ashley would go, Michelle, 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 Michelle. She would just call out for her. She never spoke, never initiated conversation with other kids. She didn't even go to specials because the paraprofessional had to go go support another kid during that time. So Ashley couldn't go because none of the specials teachers would take Ashley unless a paraprofessional went with her. And she actually went to the cafeteria, and they called that socialization time, but she sat with her self-contained class. Then Ashley's mom stepped up. She became Mama Bear. She asked me if I would sit in on the IEP meeting, and we meet with the teachers' administrators to provide some training to the teachers and to kind of come in on a monthly basis and provide some coaching to the team to help them include Ashley. So this is a video that I took probably 3 weeks ago. Ashley is in all general education classes now, except her English language arts, her English time is like an hour and a half a day for all the kids. For a half hour of that time, she receives one-on-one reading instruction with a special ed teacher, and it's one-on-one, and it's in the special ed teacher's office. So she misses about a half an hour a day of the English language arts class. Ashley had never had any kind of effective reading instruction up to this point in time. Yeah, I just want to remind myself of where I was going. So one of the classes that all the 7th graders take, this is now 2 years later. So I helped them out in 5th grade and 6th grade. Now it's 2 years later. There's no more fighting about whether Ashley should be included. She's welcomed. And in her writing class, all the kids had to do a piece of writing. We haven't figured out writing for Ashley yet. So she presented her piece of writing in this way to the class, and I'll tell you how she did that after we watch. And I'm wondering, Carly, if it would make sense just to dim the lights for this video. Front one's perfect, actually. And I took this video on my cell phone, and it's terrible. Sorry. We can't make it any higher. So for Ashley to stand up in front of her class and for her to then call on students by name, acknowledge their feedback, she actually said, thank you, Caleb, thank you, Ashlyn, and so on, was like, for Ashley. In order to complete this writing assignment, Ashley's mom supported her using a software app, an iPad app called Pictello. Raise your hand if you know what Pictello is. It's cheap and it's really nice. It's a way for kids to kind of make their own books, and then once the book is made with pictures and with words, either the student, him or herself, could have, narrated it and read it, or the application reads it aloud. Ashley first told her mom that she wanted to write a story about going to Grandpa's house. Ashley and her mom they had taken some pictures of the whole event, and then those were imported into the pages of the Pictello book. Ashley then told her mom what she wanted to have written, and Ashley's mom typed it. So Ashley went from just not being able to do anything and not being included to she's finally getting one-on-one instruction for some number of hours a day. She's finally reading. She never had shown the ability to read. I think some people had kind of given up on that. But in Boston, Massachusetts, we have what's called a 3 to 21 Down syndrome program at one of our big teaching hospitals. And they use the Down Syndrome International See and Learn, is it that reading program, to teach Ashley. She's doing just amazing. Fully included, except for part of English. She goes to all her specials. She goes to her specials without her aid now, like drama, art, music. She goes to a regular summer camp alongside just typical kids, and she's just much more confident. I want to see if I missed something. I don't think I did. So tell me what your reaction is to seeing or hearing Ashley's story. Yes?
So it's not a big deal if they start out with a one-on-one aid, but the idea is to wean them off of it so they're like, Ashley, what happened, if they need it?
Kids can, you asked if the kids can start out with a one-on-one aid, but then a goal would be to fade the aid back. I think it depends on the student, and it also depends on how we define the role of the aid. Because in the definition of inclusive education, I really want the student's primary instruction to come from the general ed teacher. If I would prefer that most of the help that the student gets in the class would be from a peer sitting next to him or her. And I think there are appropriate ways that aides or paraprofessionals or speech pathologists or special ed teachers can come into the classroom and either work in a small group of kids that includes Ashley or sit next to Ashley and provide her with help. Yes. Another idea, up here we have some resource books, and two of them are the Paraprofessionals Guide to the Inclusive Classroom, the Paraprofessionals Handbook for Effective Support in Inclusive Classrooms. And what I think you also could really benefit from is someone who understands what that balance should be is to actually come into the classroom alongside the paraprofessional and show them what it looks like and what it doesn't look like. Do you have in either Kansas or Missouri special ed parent advisory committees that are required in every school district? Not required. Even if they're not required, and again, here's this, something that you may need to do on a community organizing level to benefit lots of kids in order to benefit your kid, which is to start one of those parent advisory groups. And I'm sure that somebody from the Guild could help you strategically think how to do that. Then you can hold a meeting, and even if it starts with just parents with disabilities, I'll bet that a school person would want to be there to hear what's going on and bring in somebody from the Guild. Yes? Of how you can get somebody else to do something, which is essentially what you're asking, that they don't want to do. There's persuasion, there's using the carrot, C-A-R-R-O-T-T, in other words, some enticement, and then there's knowing that you have something over which you have control, which might be accessing an advocate or legal help as the kind of the stick. You get that metaphor, you know, the carrot and the stick? A little bit later, I'm going to be sharing with you 7, and we're going to be working through 7 different strategies that parents can use as advocates for their kids' inclusion. And so there will be some more on that list other than what's come up today. Yes.
I'm a little bit confused. Are you advocating for no, and I know, I don't believe it, no pull-out time, what, direct education on topics like English and math, where at some point the traditional classroom curriculum starts to get well past the,
Mhm.
just from the logistics of
Mhm.
doing, math and
Mhm.
English structure and that kind of stuff? Or are you saying that that should all be done inside the general classroom with assistance? That's where I'm a little unclear about what you're
All right.
what
Hold on to your hats here. Hold on.
well, I'm sure it depends.
Hold on to your hats. What I'm in favor of is a complete unification of general ed and special ed so that all classrooms are general ed classrooms. You've got maybe two talented teachers in all classrooms all day long, that teachers no longer teach to the middle of the group, but they're always teaching to the different interests and skills and talents of all kids. That sometimes in that general ed classroom, you would have all the kids who were just learning to read, sat, cat, fat, working together. But most of the time, you would have all kids working on lessons that allowed them to access the instruction and show what they know in different ways. That's the ideal. When it comes down to those individual decisions of those individual student programming decisions, I defer to what parents' most important values and priorities are. Because Ashley's mom could have said, I want Ashley to be there for the entire language arts lesson, the whole hour and a half time period. She could have said, it would be just fine with me if Ashley, because by the time kids are in 7th grade, most of them are not really being taught how to read anymore, right? They're being taught how to use their reading skills to gain other information. So it's like reading's just not taught in 7th grade. But Ashley's mom said, literacy has just been ignored for Ashley. Even though it's 7th grade, I still think Ashley deserves the opportunity to learn to read and write. And so she said, that's one of my priorities. So let's look at the day, the schedule of the day, and figure out what time we would have her out of the general ed class. It's a long answer to a kind of complicated. I mean, yeah, I think all kids should be all together all the time in the same classroom, and that all of special ed and Title I should just be in and out in the general ed classroom helping all kids. There are a few schools who are trying to work out systems like that, but not too many. Does that answer your question? Okay. Sometimes, and maybe not all the time. Because, oopsies, sorry. Some of the work that I do with whole schools is trying to help them move to this idea of the current situation, which is general ed is here, special ed is here, Title I, English language learning, the reading specialists, and sort of listing on a piece of paper who are all the adults in your school who could possibly help with teaching kids. And it's kind of, even in schools that are having budget crises, it's kind of amazing how big that list can be. If you include paraeducators, okay, and then I work with the teachers and I say, if we did not do pull out separate instruction for kids, how could we take all those support people and distribute them into the general ed classes? And I actually worked with two K-4 schools a couple of years ago. And what we were able to do is have 2 adults, not always 2 certified teachers, but 2 adults in the whole language arts and math times during the day. And that was huge, because the minute you have 2 people there, if you've got 30 kids in the classroom, you can actually divide the class in half. And each kid gets twice as much adult attention as they did when there was one teacher and 30 kids. So again, this is big systems change. I know some schools are experimenting with what's called co-teaching, where they're trying to bring the special ed person in to partner up with the general ed teacher to teach the lessons. There are some of those co-teaching partnerships that look a little bit more truly 50-50, and some are looking more like the general ed teachers in charge and the special ed teachers kind of standing over in the corner or feeling like they're a paraprofessional. So and my point was, no.
Doesn't play well, so.
No. And as long as this inclusive education movement happens one kid and one parent working alone at a time, not me, but my daughter's going to be here 30 years from now talking to the same group of parents. You have to organize. I mean, that's, yeah. And I mean, the Guild is an example of bringing people together who all have a common mission and vision and organizing. I don't know if the Guild could run a Partners in Policy Making, and who's here staff-wise listening to me? Do you know what Partners in Policy Making is? Is there one in Missouri and Kansas? Okay, I'm going to talk with Sarah, who has all kinds of spare time, and I'm going to share with her the curriculum. It's actually a curriculum that's used in New Hampshire, and they take like 35 families through this year-long learning leadership effort. And right now in New Hampshire, we started doing this in 1987. We have now 950 individual family members all around the state who are now school board members, principals, coordinators of their parent advisory councils, legislators, senators and legislators. Our governor, Maggie Hassan, went through leadership because she has a son with a severe disability. That's the result of community organizing, is it's not one person at a time. It's groups of people, and it's amazing how groups of people can make more noise and have more impact than one person at a time. Yes, 950. And we have our state's 1 million people. Yes. Partners? Yeah, and some partners in policy making are really focused on inclusion, whether it's birth to old age inclusion or educational inclusion. Ours happens to be focused on mostly on inclusive education. Yes, I'm going to do 2 more questions, then we're going to do a small group activity. Okay? Yes, and then can be very, very helpful. And if you Google co-teaching, co-teaching, a woman's name is going to come up, Marilyn, Marilyn, Friend, Friend. She has a couple books out about co-teaching, and actually some of the folks I've talked with this week have done some co-teaching training. Your question? Hold your questions. We'll talk more about kind of some strategies for addressing that us against them idea. There's no cookbook. There's, unfortunately, I can't say. I mean, I've got 7 ideas that I'm going to share with you, but it's not a quick fix. So here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to work in at least pairs of people, or if you feel like you can kind of group with 3 people together. And what I'd like you to do is come up with a list, so have somebody write down your ideas, of 10 things you would want to see if you went into an inclusive classroom that would tell you inclusion is really happening. This is the how do you know it when you see it list. Okay? And you can do this pretty quickly, like 10 minutes. Okay?